Okay, everyone, this is Big Dan with Southern Extreme Sports Talk. Just coming to you today. This is Sunday, October 27th. We had an exciting weekend again of college football, week 9. Just wanted to hop on here and go over the kind of the top 25 there, what happened. Um, we are currently looking at um, Oregon. That's our number one team. They they beat Illinois pretty handily, 38-9. They continue to roll. Like I say, they should have um pretty easy way from here out. I don't see them having much of a problem. But anyway, they beat Indiana. I mean Illinois. Excuse me. They beat Illinois 38-9 last night or yesterday, and did it pretty handily. So they showed why they're the number one team. They continue to roll. Of course, Georgia was off. Um, Penn State, they're number 3. Uh, they had a slow go. Have to see what happened with their. They was playing Wisconsin. Drew Allure got hurt during the game. I haven't heard what's wrong with him or any timetable or anything of that nature. But anyway, they were in a little early on in the dog fight with Wisconsin, but they pulled away a little bit late. They won 28-13, so they're still undefeated. And number 3, number 4 is Ohio State. Um, now, Ohio State right now they look real sluggish. They played Nebraska yesterday, and they won 21-17, but it was very sluggish, um, to say the least at this point. Uh, so I don't know. They should. I think they should win out, but I don't know at this point if they will. Because I'm gonna tell you, and I know some of you got on there. You can leave me comments, tell me what you want. I'll get back with you. But Indiana won yesterday against Washington with their backup quarterback. They had a pretty good game. They won 31-17 um, against Washington. Indiana did. So Ohio State has to play Penn State next week. And then a couple weeks after that, they'll play Indiana. So they're going to have 2 tough ball games on their hand going forward. So, like if I was an Ohio State fan, you just wish for the best. You kind of worried about them at this point, to be honest with you. I would be. They like I say, next week they're at Penn State. That's an early ball game. Then they have Purdue after that, then Northwestern, and then they'll have Indiana at home. That's the one advantage to it. So that's the big 2 games left on their schedule. Uh, so I hope y'all don't take Penn State or Indiana light, because either of those 2 teams can beat you. That's for sure. I don't think Michigan will be able to do anything against you. I don't think Purdue or Northwestern will. But anyhow, that's what we're looking like on the Ohio State Buckeyes right now. So anyhow, we're gonna ease on down the line here. We got uh, Miami at number 5. Of course, they didn't have much of a competition yesterday. They played Florida State. It is what it is. Florida State's just struggling this year, but Miami won 36 I think it was, let me look on here, 36-14, I believe is what it was, maybe, if I remember right. Yeah, 36-14 was the final for Miami. But anyhow, Miami's rolling. Um, they're doing good. Of course, Cam Ward, he's in the Heisman race. He's probably one of the front runners up there with the running back from Boise State. But anyway, Cam Ward, he didn't throw it for any touchdowns yesterday, but he didn't need to. The little running back for them, the Damian Martinez, he had a couple touchdowns for 148 yards yesterday against Florida State. Cam Ward, he threw for 208 yards, so he did good there. But anyhow, we'll get on down the line here on the next team coming up. We'll see number 6 Texas. They jumped out to a quick little lead on Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt fought. Texas ended up winning 27-24, but Vandy beat Alabama. Vandy's pretty decent. They're playing everybody pretty tough this year. But Texas they're struggling. They look like the powerhouse, but then Georgia beat them. Then all of a sudden they're struggling, looking sluggish. But anyhow, they'll probably right the ship. They still got to play Texas A&M at the end of the year. Number 17 is Tennessee. They were off this weekend. So then we'll go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a big game against Navy. Navy was number 24 team in the AP ranking at the time. They had lots of turnovers yesterday. Notre Dame beat them pretty bad, 51-14 or 17, something like that. Let me look real quick so I'm not telling anybody anything wrong. Yeah, Notre Dame won 51-14 against Navy. Notre Dame's now 7-1. Navy's 6-1. Navy's in the American, but the Army's in the lead in the American. So we got, but Notre Dame looked real good. They're doing great defensively. Of course, they got Al Golden as defensive coordinator. They've been doing real good. But Notre Dame, they'll have a couple of tough games here later on. Their next game shouldn't be too tough. They play Florida State, and they'll play Virginia. They'll win that ball game. The last 2 ball games will be a little tough for them. They got to play Army, which Army's got a pretty tough defense, and they run the ball very well, of course. And then they're at USC the last game of the year. So you got to see which USC team you're getting, which they'll probably get the best USC team possible. But anyhow, Notre Dame should still beat them, but that'll be the last 2 tough games. But I look for Notre Dame to roll on through really and make the playoffs and see what they can do in the playoffs there. But anyhow, we're going to move on from Notre Dame here. Next team is number 9. They moved up is BYU. BYU, they had a real good game. They beat UCF, which I don't understand why in the game they were not favored. I don't understand that, but that's here nor there. But BYU beat UCF pretty handedly during the game. Final score was 37-24, but it wasn't even that close of a ball game. But BYU's playing great ball, playing real good. I look for them to win the Big 12. Of course, Iowa State's still undefeated. We got Colorado's coming up, doing good. Colorado won yesterday. But anyhow, BYU's doing awesome. Next team is Texas A&M. Of course, the big game last night was Texas A&M against my LSU Tigers. We come out of the gates good, but didn't finish good. But that was a good game. Good coached game by Mike Elko, putting the backup Reed in for Wegman. Wegman really wasn't playing good. I wish he'd have left Wegman in. Would have won, but he didn't. He made a good coaching move. Made some adjustments. LSU, they dominated us in the second half. They beat us pretty handedly. But anyhow, Texas A&M is at the top of the SEC right now. They're doing fabulous. So we'll see how A&M finishes. They got to play. A&M will play Texas at the end of the year, and then they'll have South Carolina next weekend at South Carolina. That'll be a tough little game at South Carolina, but A&M should win that game pretty handily, really. But then they play New Mexico State, Auburn, and Texas. So Texas is going to be the big game. But they should be looking good. As long as they win their next 3 games, they'll be looking good going into Texas. Or actually, they got Texas at home. But anyhow, on to the next one. That'll round out the top 10 there with A&M. Next one's Iowa State. They was off this weekend. They're undefeated. Then you got Clemson at number 11. I think Clemson was off. Iowa State and Clemson, they got them tied at 11. So we don't have a number 12 per se. Then you got Indiana at 13. Indiana's undefeated. Indiana's doing awesome. I'll be honest with you. Looks like if they can get their little quarterback back next weekend, the Rourke kid, he was in kind of Heisman talks, but if they get him back, I look for Indiana to probably play for the Big Ten championship, but they should make the playoffs also. 14 is Alabama. They beat the dog out of Missouri. Missouri's just kind of, I don't know, to me, Missouri's playing decent on defense, but their offense is sputtering. They missed that running back they had last year, that's for sure. But anyhow, Alabama beat them pretty good. Boise State, they come out of the gates. They're 15. They come out of the gates pretty good against UNLV. I mean, slow out of the gates, excuse me. And then they caught fire a little bit later, but they ended up beating UNLV. So they'll continue on. I really don't see them losing a ball game from here out. But then we got number 16 LSU. Of course, we come out of the gates pretty good last night against A&M. Then A&M got us. But anyhow, just we'll have to regroup and keep fighting. Number 17 is K-State. They had a tough little ball game against Kansas last night. They beat Kansas 29-27. So anyhow, they fought and they won the ball game. So Kansas State is up there also in the Big 12. Their remaining schedules, they're at Houston, got Arizona State at home, Cincinnati at home, and then their big one is they're at Iowa State at the end of the year. So that'll help determine whether if they play BYU probably for the Big 12 championship. That's about it. I know Colorado's going to be rooting for Iowa State to beat them. But anyhow, we'll get back to the top 25 here. We got Pittsburgh is next, 18th. Like I said, they blowed out Syracuse the other night. Kyle McCord, he he went off and had about 5 interceptions. 3 out of the 5 was returned for touchdowns. So Pittsburgh had a pretty easy night. But anyhow, they're undefeated, and they'll be pushing for the ACC, trying to make the conference championship for the ACC. But anyhow, they'll have a few tough ball games still to go. A couple of them. Number 19 is Ole Miss. This weekend, Ole Miss played Oklahoma. Kind of they won 26-14. I'll put it that way. They're just sluggish like Ohio State right now. They're not doing near as good as they should have beat Oklahoma a whole lot worse than what they did. But Oklahoma did all they could, but Ole Miss just ain't clicking on all the cylinders right now. But anyway, they still got to play Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi State. But they're gonna have to get things together if they're gonna beat Georgia. They have to look a whole lot better than they did yesterday. But anyway, we'll get back to the rankings here. We got SMU is number 20. SMU, they played Duke last night. Duke played them tough. SMU won 28-27. They continue to have a real good season going. They're 7-1 currently overall. But they're hanging right there at the top of the ACC with Pittsburgh and Clemson and Miami. So that's kind of your top 4 coming in there on the ACC level. But anyhow, SMU, they still got Pitt to play next. So that game right there will help determine a little bit. That's the big game. Then they'll play BC, Virginia, and California, which they should win those 3 ball games. Just have to see how they fare against Pitt next weekend. So then we go to the next one, 21 Army. Army was, I believe Army was off this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they were off. Then they'll play Air Force this weekend coming up. North Texas after that. Then they got to play Notre Dame, UTSA, and then their last game, of course, against Navy with the Armed Forces Bowl. But anyhow, Army's doing good. Just going to be that big game against Notre Dame, I believe. But we'll see how they make it. Proud of them for doing this good this far. Coming in here at 22 for this week coming up is Washington State. They weren't ranked last week. But anyhow, they come in here, they're number 22. Let's see. They beat San Diego State 29-26. Let's see. They lost to Boise State 45-24 early on. They beat Washington. They beat Texas Tech. But not next week. In 2 weeks, they'll have Utah State, New Mexico, Oregon State, and Wyoming. So actually, Washington State should win out. 1, 2, 3. So they'll end up 11-1 in the Pac-2. But so they'll win the Pac-2. I don't know how they're going to do in the getting selected for the playoffs. I don't think that's going to work out. But anyhow, welcome the Washington State Cougars to the top 25. Got Illinois. Let's see. Illinois is 23 is Colorado. Colorado's doing good. They figured it out finally, I guess. You can tell the coaching is helping with the defensive line. They got Warren Sapp. He's must be doing a real good job because they were leading in sacks coming into this weekend. but they're doing a whole lot better on defense. They beat a good Cincinnati team last night. Colorado did. They won 34-23. So they're really doing good. Of course, Shador, he's putting up good numbers. Shador Sanders, the quarterback. Travis Hunter, he's having a great year. They still got Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State to play. Realistically, Colorado should win all 4 of those ball games. The way everything's playing right now, I mean, they may slip up on one, but realistically, right now, the way they're playing and the other teams are, they should win these next 4 ball games. So that'll put them at 10-2. But with BYU and Iowa State sitting where they are, and Kansas State, which Colorado lost to Kansas State, I think that's going to hurt them. So as far as making the conference championship, so I'm looking at BYU and I'm thinking maybe Kansas State is going to beat Iowa State. So that's probably going to catapult them into the Big 12 conference championship game. But we'll see how it works out for everybody. But Colorado's in there at number 23, excuse me. Congratulations to y'all. 24 is Illinois. Of course, they lost to Oregon yesterday. Pretty handedly, 38-9, and they still got to play Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, and Northwestern. So tough game against Minnesota next week. Might be a little tough on Rutgers and Michigan State a little bit, but they should win those ball games. So they'll end up going out, but I don't see them making the playoffs or nothing. Missouri, they lost big to Alabama yesterday. They're number 25. They still got to play Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. They'll probably end up losing one of those ball games. I know South Carolina and Arkansas is going to play them tough. Mississippi State probably will be too. Of course, Oklahoma, they're going to try best they can. Oklahoma had a tough schedule. But anyhow, we'll see how it works out. But I don't see Missouri going nowhere, not to the playoffs. Of course, they're bowl eligible already. But anyhow, I appreciate y'all getting on here. Leave me some comments if you would. Like and subscribe. Share the content. And we'll catch you next week for the recap of the Week 10 as we get closer to the playoffs. Thank you very much, and catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.